should devote my life to the pursuit of some high enterprise for the betterment of all mankind and for the improvement of my soul. Also to astound my friends, confound my enemies. I shall make a little list. First, I'll write a catalogue of daydreams, fully indexed and cross-referenced. And then, a large-scale map of passing clouds as a foolproof aid to navigation. Design a device to plot precisely to 17 decimal points the exact parameters of the perfect kiss and the significance of any smile. Build a compass so sensitive it shows to plus or minus 1 second of arc exactly where the time does go. And a small machine to analyse why and how one thing leads to another. I'll draw a graph to plot trajectories accurate to a thousandth of an inch for all unintended consequences. And lastly, if I really choose to try, I shall transcribe in copperplate the definitive answer to the question, why?
Thoughts all enough already. New highs for me. My wife and I spent far too many years living in rented accommodation, in houses without a garden. Very fortunate in the last few years to actually now have a house with a garden, which meant I was able to realise the lifelong dream of having my own vegetable patch. The very first year went very well. The last 2 years have been a bit of a disaster. I blamed too much rain last year, too much dryness this year, all good excuses. But this poem is related to that. It's called Tomatoes. They have gorged themselves on summer and glow with the afternoons that we spent calling forth rainbows from a hose's mouth. Plump and content as puppies, full of milk, they cluster together and radiate, like a mother in her first trimester. Flush as a wallet on the first of the month, or a tongue-tied lad falling over the words of a well-rehearsed speech. They burn, brave little beacons against an October sky, percolated with milk. We pluck them from their wrecked scaffolding and bed them softly in the bottom of a truck, barely able not to burst them between teeth and retrieve our summer, acid sweet and burning bright.
Many of you will know the Jurassic coast west of Swanage, and some of you will probably know Dancing Ledge. It's one of my favourite places, and this poem came from a walk along there a couple of months ago. I was quite disappointed to discover, on researching it, after I read the poem, that it's not called Dancing Ledge because people dance on it. That's a shame. Apparently, at certain states of the tide, the rock looks as if it's dancing under the water. Usually it is good, I suppose. So this is Dancing Ledge. Will you dance with me on Dancing Ledge on a night when the moon is round, when the arc of sea and the vault of sky cannot be told apart, when the night is old and the tide is low and the stars are leaning in? Then our feet will step on the shattered rock between the gleaming pools, and we will turn and we will sway like fronds in a submarine world. And everything now will be different, though nothing will change. And if we dance on Dancing Ledge by the whispering of the sea, the pale jealous moon would cover her face and the curious stars would turn away. And we would stand still and look to the east as the sky and the sea drift apart, and out of the rift between the two, the dawn would flood in like the tide, and the day would break open too soon. And nothing at all would be different, but everything would be changed.
Growing up, I always thought my father was immortal. He never seemed to age and he seemed to have boundless amounts of energy. Several years on, I'm still not convinced that he isn't. This is called Father Time. I, white as the worms he turned from the earth, digging his beds for his winter veg, amazed by the claims he made on the sun, inviting it in to leather his skin. I, who cried at the slightest scratch, watched and wondered as furrows of blood flowed through the grooves of the flesh of his face, where a tangle with brambles had hooked to his head. I was the one who was always running, unable to match the strength of his stride, unslowed by the loads of wood that he towed to chop into logs for his winter fires. And when he fell quiet and flared his nose, I knew that I failed in the role of the male, and once again I bear the blame of being unable to suffer in silence. Now, in his 80s, I have sped up and walked beside him with wonderful ease. Or, step by step, he slowed down, little by little, each passing year.
A few years ago, my eldest son and I went looking for a place where I lived when I was a little boy. I lived until I was 6. It was a farm in Sussex, and this is a poem that I wrote after that search. And I suppose it's really about the futility of trying to go back. It's called Looking for Friday Street. The next field was a foreign country then, where we explored through head-high uncut hay and found the abandoned rustling tractor whose broken iron carcass rose from a jungle of nettles, dock and weeds. The hedgerows where the rabbits lived, and the steep banks of the railway cutting, where we picked bright primroses to arrange in egg-cup vases in the caravan. These were my landmarks and my horizons. These were the borders of my world. The big square farmhouse is long gone, with its flagstones and high black kitchen range, boots and shotguns leaning in the corner. The yard where the stamping bull was tethered, and the sweating men in belts and shirt sleeves stirred the cow cake in a smoke-black cauldron and a sticky steam of hot molasses. Gone too. At the bottom of some garden, with its clean brick drive and tidy hedges, a yard or two of napped flint wool survives. There's suburban tarmac on the lane that led down to the bus stop on the road, where once I ran to meet my dad from the scent of chamomile by the gate, and falling, tore my chest on cinders, and striped with tears and soot and blood, I cried from bitter disappointment that the distant figure was not him. Now, leafing back through photographs, lay the memories of discarded years, those tears still thicken in my throat.
My next one is about the feelings you get when you're in nature, of being very close to God, a very sort of religious type experience on that. It's called a congregation of water. This is where I would come to worship. Knee-deep, hat full of hooks, I would cast my line out to the gods, the small gods, though great in their element, and listen to the hymn of water flowing through rocks. Here, where angels hover on translucent wings, iridescent in sunlight, whirring like prayer wheels. Here, where the great oaks dip their feet and slowly sip from the source of life. And here, where the otter swims on its back, hugging a pebble to its chest, so in its element you can hardly tell where otter begins and water ends.
Last one from me for this session. This is continuing a nice tradition I started a while ago, trying to embarrass the girls. It's called While You Were Sleeping. While you were sleeping, and I lay beside you in the safe harbour of our bed, I thought of lines to write for you, with words that I could spin and weave to make a cloak to wrap you with, so the creeping cold would never find you. Words that remember the taste of your skin and reconstruct the texture of your eyes. Words to make you smile and wonder. Then all these words curled up into a ball and fell asleep. And in the morning, there we were, you still sleeping, me dreaming of words for you.
to set themes. And I've written quite a few now which I call the art of communication, which about communication between humans and the way animals communicate, and the way communication sometimes often fails. This one's called The Language of Whistles. If she were a collie, he could purse the O of his lips into a colt's whistle and cause her to pause. He could lean on the grey wood of the gate and exhale one long, sharp note to turn her around. He could warble and click as she rounded up her cases and bags and drove them away from the taxi. Instead, he watches her depart, his lips circling into silent exhalations. Thank you for your patience.
Good introduction, isn't it? Right. Got to think of something you've never heard of now. The one I'm going to start this session with is called Cover Your Eyes. It's a little while ago, a friend of ours called Penny G, who's an amazing artist and lives in Lymington, did a superb painting called The Fool. It's based on the ancient ideas of the Holy Fool. We're really extra special lucky because we have a painting in our living room. And I wrote this about it. It's called Cover Your Eyes. When I come to you, cover your eyes. I dance on points on the very edge of the chasm of the world. Eyes closed, arms flung to the stars, the sight alone will scorch your retinas. But I will never fall. Cover your eyes. I hold the runes and the prophetic cards. I carry the scissors and the paper. In my hand is a rock. The odds are stacked against you. You must play the game, but you will never win. Cover your eyes. On the highest levels of the wind I fly with crows and angels, laughing with both wings tied behind me. Look, no hands. Vertigo will stop your breath, but I will never fall. Cover your eyes. I am the holy fool. I pirouette on the axis of your soul without your permission. I sang your life into being while you were looking the other way. Cover your eyes. When I come to you now, cover your eyes. But you are too late. I am already there, inside you, where I will always be.
My next poem is about my cousin. When he was born, he had an accident during birth, trusted with cerebral palsy. And growing up as a child, he used to come and visit, and I never really quite understood at that young age. He used to find it quite frightening at the time. So this poem is called Charles. As a kid, your visit scared me. Not your lavish ginger beard or your heavy limping leg, but your arms, your uncontrolled arms. I recall the day you straightened my tie, and your twitching slipped the knot into a hangman's noose. The day the trapdoor of our relationship yawed beneath me. You slowly chewed the words "I'm sorry" like a dog with a toffee, and spat the mangled remains towards me. It was the last time I heard you speak. Years later, with an electronic translator, you stabbed your way through speech, with keys not small enough nor close enough for those arms, those uncontrolled arms. Far too late I came to see your brain, like a general trapped in his room, his orders ignored or passed by Chinese whispers to ranks of incompetent troops. Far too late I realised that I'd missed the man inside.
Right, a poem that rhymes. Now time too, you're all thinking. This is called Other Moments. Once, with Winifred beneath the wall, as Arthur on his great horse shook the ground, I stood and watched his polished shield spill light upon her golden gown. Like the bell fire burning in the sun, and with her dark hair blown astray, she turned and smiled and looked at me. And me, I turned away. 3 days out of Falmouth roads, riding the steep Atlantic swells, In the creak and shudder of the wind, I thought I heard the whispered spells. I gripped the throbbing stays and stared to windward where the sky broke clear. And the spindrift silence sang for me, and me I would not hear. As I walked out one soft spring morning between the rocks to the singing stream, I looked away beneath the trees and saw her stand as in a dream. In her hair was the white May blossom, her skin shone pale as moonlight on the snow, and she stepped as if to come to me, and me I turned to go.
This next poem was written in a response of having to talk about somebody but not being allowed to use visual prompts in any way. This is how I know I loved you, because the night was a comforter woven from your breathing, lulling me to sleep. Each morning was a symphony of joyous sounds. Kettle rush, dance of water, jostle of bottles on the bathroom sink. Each evening began with scrape of key tiptoeing through the lock, click of latch, creak of hinge, the whole world bursting into sound. Now you are not here, the house is a shell, beautiful, polished, but hollow. I hold it to my ear in the hope of hearing you breathe.
Those of you who are interested in poetic form might like to know that this is 6 haiku joined together. It's called Words Like Stars. Words like stars engage in constellations, or fall, burning the blank page. Words like starlings fly, fast, fluid ideograms, haiku on the sky. Words like starfish creep, tracing languid syllables, submarine and deep. Words like stardust climb, abandon form and reason, gravity and rhyme. Words like starships ply boldly between galaxies, fast as thought can fly. Words like stars abide, cold, austere and beautiful, all that we would hide.
My next one again is in the series of poems about communication. It's called I Would Like to Say. I would like to say you are the single shell on a beach full of pebbles. I would like to say you are the song of the blackbird rising above the rush of the traffic. I would like to say you're a swan, serene on the water, despite all the paddling beneath. I would like to say that you are a shady tree on the hottest of days. I would like to say you are the one book I would save from the fire. But, with being me, I only smile.
Right, last one from me this night. This is called Breadcrumbs. Like most people that I've spoken to who write in any way at all, it's easy to become kind of obsessive about the process of writing, which always seems to me an extremely strange and rather mystical event. And this is a poem about writing a poem. It's called Breadcrumbs. Words condense and drift down from the sky, fluttering fragments of silent song, a whispering precipitation. If you listen, if you follow them, you will find yourself following that old trail of breadcrumbs through the tense, dark forest. It's that twisted pathway through the trees that tricks both night and day. You know the one. You've seen it in edgy, nervous dreams. Who knows what you might find, or where you might be led. There are no maps, no compasses, no guidebooks in this neck of the woods. and the black crows eat the crumbs. There might be gingerbread houses. There might be dragons or a princess. There will almost certainly be monsters. But you do not need to worry, for they are no more real than you are. Sooner or later you may come to one of those dangerous places from which there is no going back. The crumbs have all been eaten. The crows have flown away. You will just have to keep walking into the dark. Thank you.
David's done 2 rhyming poems and I'd hate to be left out of that process, so I should do the same. This poem was prompted by the news not so long ago about Voyager 1 leaving our solar system. As most of you probably know, that when Voyager 1 was launched in 1977, it contained on it a golden record with messages in several languages, should we ever meet another race out in space. Somewhat ironically at the time, the superpower that sent this message of greeting out was engaged in a rather vicious warfare elsewhere. Things haven't really improved since then. So this poem is called Take the Hammer. Please, take the hammer from out my ear, for I no longer want to hear it beat against the ample face with news about the human race. Bring back our scrap from distant stars, dismantled dishes which point to Mars, so they no longer beam to space with news about the human race. And stitch the mouths of every press, which spreads the word of man's undress, and revels in the pure disgrace of news about the human race. Unprint the word on every page, which fills the heart of man with rage, and when we're fit, let us displace the bad news about the human race. So, please take the hammer from out my ear. I no longer want to hear it beat against the anvil face with news about the human race.